Hey, what's up, folks? We are coming at you with a couple more propositions. We're looking at here. We've got Price, who's taking a look. Everybody knows we're supposed to. What's the rule? Vote no on everything, but yes on Prop 20 and 22. Is that the rule, Price? The general guideline?
The general rule, if you're a Republican, is vote no on everything except Prop 20 and Prop 22, unless, of
That's right.
course, you're me and you've seen the episode we did the other day where I made the case where if you're a Republican, it's kind of more up in the air on supporting Prop 22. But today we're going to be talking about Prop 20 and Prop 15. Prop 20 is interesting because it's going to be rolling back some of the quote unquote criminal justice reforms that went into place with the passage of Prop 47 6 years ago and Prop 57 2 years ago. In particular, when looking at the kinds of things that it will roll back, this is according to calmatters.org, it's going to give prosecutors new flexibility to charge some property crimes of more than $250, such as serial shoplifting, car theft, and felony. And yeah, you can look at those as felonies rather than misdemeanors, which is huge. I
Okay.
mean, I from my
Or
perspective,
wobblers, right?
wobblers, yes, wobblers, serial offenders, people who are going in and constantly just stealing things. I know the big rule change was under $1,000, and you can just talk to shop owners across California, and they are seeing the direct impact that these two propositions had, along with what was the piece of legislation again, Mike? It was
Maybe 109.
AB 109. So
Yeah.
the
The trifecta of chaos,
Mhm.
they say, for
Yep,
California.
the trifecta of chaos. These three pieces of legislation pretty much made theft legal in the state of under $1,000 and even over $1,000 in a lot of petty theft cases. Let's say someone broke into your car. Let's say you're a tech employee on the streets of San Francisco and you park your car downtown and go into the office and you come back and next thing you know, you have, let's say $2,000 or $3,000 worth of stuff in your car. Your window's broken, all your stuff's gone. You call the police. They ask them, "Oh, can you go and file a police report? Can you help me find the people who took my property?" In a lot of cases, if
Right.
you talk to a lot of the police officers on the ground, they'd say, "Well, we could, and we could put it in the record, and we could file a report, but really our hands are tied, and there's nothing we can do." So
That's right. Yeah.
these laws that have been in place have really hamstrung the police departments in a lot of locales across the state. And I'm really hoping this goes through because it'll be one more tool in the arsenal of the police to take a stronger approach to get rid of crime, especially petty theft.
So you're saying vote yes or vote no on 20?
Vote yes on 20. That's personally, like I said, that's from what the actual, there's one piece of Prop 20 that I disagree with, and that's for putting for offenders of that, let's say it is a felony, and it goes over that $250 limit, taking their DNA and putting it into a state and federal database. That's the one thing that I disagree with,
Yeah.
unless they get a court order, because you can't arbitrarily take someone's DNA. In my opinion, someone's DNA is their property.
Yeah.
So that's where it gets a little murky for me. But above all, I think it's a strong piece of criminal justice legislation that'll bring some teeth back to law enforcement in the state.
Well, during the congressional campaign, weren't we talking to a lot of law enforcement folks who were basically saying that 47, 57, and 109 were what was making it difficult for them to charge with guys with misdemeanors? So, I mean, it has outflow and ramifications in terms of vagrancy law and everything like that as well, right?
Oh, no, 100%. I mean, you talk to a lot of police officers on the ground, people who are beat cops who are dealing with the realities of petty theft on a day-to-day basis. They'll tell you, they'll bring someone in and they'll cite them for petty theft. They'll throw them in jail for the night. They'll post bail. They'll get released, and they'll be out the very next day stealing the exact same amount of property. And it's a wash, rinse, and repeat process. So,
Right.
and when you scroll down, and once again, I would highly recommend anyone who's watching this to check out Cal Matters. They have a great breakdown for the pros and cons for each one of these propositions. But if you go down to the major donors and major people who are in support and against these opposition, there's been about 4,300,000 raised in support of Prop 20, about 6,750,000 against Prop 20. But what's interesting to me, and we were talking about this before we started recording, One of the key backers in the opposition camp is Chan Zuckerberg, who's Mark Zuckerberg's wife. Someone who does not go anywhere without a private security detail,
Right.
who has massive walls around all of their properties up in Big Bear and Mammoth, out in Hawaii, at their
Totally.
homes in San Francisco
Right.
area. This is someone who has security up to the gills, but doesn't support regular business owners and shop owners to have the right to actually have criminals thrown in jail who are robbing them of their property. And so I just wanted to point out that little piece of irony.
Yeah.
But in terms of people, major supporters for this, Devin Nunes, the congressman from California,
Yeah.
the San Bernardino County Sheriff Employees Benefit Association, Sempra Energy, but no, I just find it interesting. Also, Peter Quillen, philanthropist and wife of Netflix co-founder Reed Hastings, she's one of the major people in the opposition camp as well. So you have a lot of big tech that's coming in and against this legislation. And Mike, I just wanted to ask you a question. Coming from the tech world, why do you think that is? What do you think the disconnect is?
Between tech and
between high up members of the tech community and wanting to support these very progressive pieces of legislation or prevent law and order pieces of legislation to be implemented in the state of California?
Well, I think like a lot of liberals, I think a lot of people who I've talked to, and I've tried to distill where the disconnect is. A lot of folks with a lot of money and a lot of art and a lot of sensitivity about their safety will kind of have this very SJW driven attitude that basically says, "Hey, I'm for the littlest, most disadvantaged." Just they have that brand, even when fundamentally the data doesn't bear it out. It makes sense. So you have people who have they've identified as quote unquote Democrats, progressives, what have you, and they see the possibility of mutiny. They may not, they are elites. They may not consort with the masses in any way or have any sort of diversity in their friend set. Maybe they do, but they ultimately, they play this card of, absolute deference to this collectivist whole, which, people follow suit because everyone wants to see. We look to our heroes to see what to believe, right? Whether it's a celebrity or somebody who's, made a ton of money in as an entrepreneur or in real estate or what have you. So you want to see what these people think. And with the media and the culture war having been won by the progressives, that's the way it goes. So that's why these things that feel totally irrational make it into the mainstream. I my theory, to ask me.
Okay. Yeah, well, I think it's been interesting. Blake said, if it was my opinion, I'd say vote no. Pardon me. Vote yes on Prop 20. I was mixing our next topic up, which I want to jump into now, which is Prop 15. Prop 15, which would, if passed, would change the California tax code into a split roll tax system, which would take industrial and commercial property over $3 million in market value and just jack up the property taxes that are able to be charged on those at fair market value versus how it is today, where a lot of those properties,
they're scaled. It's a 1% increase, right?
It's 1% increase on top of what it was purchased at. That's the value it's assessed at.
Right.
So I think it's a max of 2 or 3% for inflation or per year as an increase.
Right. But the key driver that the opposition is doing for this is they're saying they're coming after Prop 13 next, right? Prop 13 was the thing that for your residential real estate was going to put a growth factor on your property taxes that would not exceed inflation, right? So it's the sort of thing where you're actually able to only pay at what your house was assessed at what you bought it at. So all that appreciation you've had, if you bought a house at $200K and it's worth $800K, you're still paying based on that gradient, not on the fair market value. And introducing it to commercial,
it's a baby step.
It's a baby step. And so there's probably a handful of commercial developers who are anti it, but it seems like the spirit in which people are opposing it is simply saying, hey, in general, they're trying to tie our property taxes to market, and we're all going to pay a lot more taxes. So let's stop this now.
Well, exactly. And I like to call it the senior citizens eradication bill or
Yeah,
proposition,
right.
because if you look at a lot of people who are relying on commercial properties as, let's say, their nest egg for their retirement, they're not going to be able to pay the property taxes that these properties are going to be valued at. Especially, let's say you're a senior citizen who bought a piece of property for 200,000 in, let's say either Venice or Pasadena in Los Angeles, or you bought a piece of
Right.
commercial property out in the Bay Area in the 70s or 80s. Your property now, if you assessed it at fair market value for what properties are going for out there,
Right.
it would make it unsustainable for you to be able to pay the property tax on
Right.
it. So what
So
this would
one of
require,
two things happens, right? Rents go up, or
Mhm.
the people dispose of the properties. So
Exactly.
it's either a downward pressure, on price, or it's basically a rent increase which gets passed on to
Well,
the
exactly.
common if you don't have it.
And so that's going to go up for rents for businesses. That's going to go up for rents for our ticket prices for, let's say, a place like Disneyland. They're going to
Right.
have to increase their prices again because they're going to have to, fill the hole to pay the property tax. So what you're going to see is things are just generally going to, once again, in the state of California, things are going to get more expensive.
Yeah.
Things are going to be less affordable. And especially for people who are relying on these properties as a form of rental income, especially older people, like I said, who are relying on this as a nest egg, those people are going to be hurt the most. And in a lot of cases, they'll probably push them out of the state of California if they currently live here. So if you look at the key,
Yeah.
back down to the finances, this is another Cal Matters piece. When he talks about how this proposition is being bankrolled for and against, major donors in support of Prop 15 include the California Teachers Association, because one of the key pieces of support for this is saying all this extra tax revenue, they say between $6.5 and $12 billion, is going to go towards 40% will go towards public schools,
Right.
and 60% will go towards public services
Right.
for municipalities across the state.
Right.
So the California Teachers Association is one of the largest supporters of this piece of legislation. Once again, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, Mark Zuckerberg, and the SEIU California State Council,
which is the workers. Yep.
Yep. And so major donors in opposition include the California Business Roundtable, an industry group for the state's largest businesses, the California Properties Association, and the California Taxpayers Association. So all these groups.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's an obvious no for me. Like that.
Yeah.
Like we were wobbly on 20.
Mm-hmm.
We got to be a hard no on 50.
No, you have to be a hard no on 15. Well, I mean, what it'll do too, it'll just make people not want to invest in the state of California.
Right.
I mean, once again, the property market here, California historically has had a very speculative property market.
Right.
And so,
but that's because since the 60s, we've had this Prop 13. You've known that you have a cap on property tax increases.
Mm-hmm.
Uncertainty is what creates volatility in a market like real estate. So,
no, 100%. But I would say no. I would encourage anyone who's voting in this election cycle to say no. And let's try to keep our property taxes down and make sure that we don't get flooded with another expensive tax that makes it more expensive here to live in the state of California.
Awesome. Bryce, you're the man. Cal Matters is where to find a lot of this stuff out, huh?
Mm-hmm. I'd recommend Cal Matters. They're a nonprofit. In a lot of cases, they're bipartisan. So they do the pros and cons. They do really good breakdowns of all the pieces of legislation that are coming forward at us in November. So,
did you listen to President Trump on Rush Limbaugh's show?
I have not had the opportunity to listen to it yet. I've heard it's good. I heard he did a good job.
Right on. All right, man. You have a great weekend. You have anything else?
Just remember to vote.
All right. Let's talk soon.
All righty. Sounds good. Later.